Welcome to Hannity, and tonight the Clinton smear machine hits a brand new low, releasing a blatantly false ad that tries to paint and tie Donald Trump to the KKK and white supremacists. Here's just part of that ad.
The reason a lot of Klan members like Donald Trump is because a lot of what he believes, we believe in. Donald Trump would be best for the job.
For president.
Yeah.
I am a farmer and white nationalist. Support Donald Trump.
Pretty despicable and disgusting, but Hillary Clinton is not stopping there. Now, earlier today, she gave a major speech accusing Donald Trump of actually being a racist, which she knows is false.
The start, Donald Trump has built his campaign on prejudice and paranoia. He is taking hate groups mainstream and helping a radical fringe take over the Republican Party. His disregard for the values that make our country great is profoundly dangerous.
A new low, pretty unbelievable. Also earlier today, before Clinton's speech, Donald Trump preemptively, he struck back at the untruthful narrative that Clinton is now pushing.
Voters are used to the old game where failed politicians like Hillary, who did lose to Barack Obama rather decisively, an election she was supposed to win easily. Please don't forget that. Where she falsely smears Republicans with the charges of racism and other things. Republicans then always have a tendency to back down and be defensive and look bad. Not Donald Trump.
Now, Hillary Clinton has been having a horrible couple of weeks here. An AP report further exposing the Clinton Foundation's pay-to-play scheme. So in order to divert attention from the American people, your attention, away from her corrupt candidacy, well, Clinton's trying to play the race card. And as Trump said earlier today, this is just an old trick from the Democrats' playbook. But when the left uses it, they ignore their own rampant history of racism. You may remember Democratic Senator Robert Byrd. Well, he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and he filibustered the civil rights legislation. Now, here's Hillary praising the former Klansman, Robert Byrd, after his death in 2010.
Senator Byrd was a man of surpassing eloquence and nobility. From my first day in the Senate, I sought out his guidance, and he was always generous with his time and his wisdom. I admired his tireless advocacy for his West Virginia constituents. As Secretary of State, I continued to rely on his advice and counsel.
Seems every election this card is played. There's also former Democratic vice presidential candidate Al Gore. Remember, he made these ridiculous accusations. Take a look.
It's wrong what the leader of the Republican Party and this Congress are doing in blocking an accurate census because they don't want to count everyone that they don't think they can count on.
They are in favor of affirmative action if you can dunk the basketball or sink a three-point shot. But they're not in favor of it if you merely have the potential to be a leader in your community and bring people together.
They don't even want to count you in the census. That's the race card. We can't forget about these two old campaign ads from Democrats that push disturbing falsehoods. Let's take a look at more of this history.
When you don't vote, you let another church explode. When you don't vote, you allow another cross to burn.
On June 7, 1998, in Texas, my father was killed. He was beaten, chained, and then dragged 3 miles to his death, all because he was black. So when Governor George W. Bush refused to support hate crimes legislation, it was like my father was killed all over again.
Well, actually, George Bush supported the death penalty for that individual. And, of course, a lot of these ads are just lies. Just a few examples of how low the Democratic Party will sink every 4 years in order to scare voters into trying to win elections. Now, while Clinton is pushing this unfounded and outright false narrative about Donald Trump, well, she ignores how her own party and President Obama have failed the black community. Now, under President Obama, the number of African Americans on food stamps has gone up a whopping 58%. What a failure. Also, under Obama, the last 8 years, African Americans in poverty, that's jumped more than 8%. And since Obama took office, the number of African Americans out of the labor force has jumped by 20%. Now, the home ownership rate for African Americans is also down 4.6% under this president. And to top it all off, African Americans' median income has also fallen in real dollars since 2009. Here with reaction is the editor-in-chief of LifeZet.com, Fox News contributor Laura Ingraham. Every 2 to 4 years, Republicans don't want to count you in the census. Republicans are racist, they're sexist, they're anti-gay. How should Donald Trump react to this?
I think his reaction today was really spot on, Sean. He called Hillary out for her record of failures in creating jobs with the Obama administration. He talked about school choice. He talked about the cynical ploy of using the race card every time you're up against the wall, which the Democratic Party is, because they have failed all communities in this country on the job creation and wage raising issues. So when they can't defend a record, when they really don't want to debate the issues, they have to go to this. And they would have done it in different ways to other candidates. People think, oh, it's only because Donald Trump is running. But we saw what they've tried to do to Republicans in the past. And Tom Sowell, I think, said it best. He said, black votes are really what matters. To the extent that Obama and Hillary care about the lives of individual black Americans, to the extent they care about them, they care about their votes more. So as long as you keep people divided, Sean, and polarized, that keeps the heat off the Democrats and their own record. The more racial harmony we have, the less we're going to see of people like Al Sharpton.
Coincidence, though, that, this is the week she was exposed. I mean, more than half the people that she met with while Secretary of State were either donors or people that promised money to the Clinton Foundation. So I don't think this is any accident, the timing of her doing this. Do you agree on the timing issue?
I think the timing also has something to do with Trump's outreach to the minority community. I think they're in total freak-out mode over his outreach. And you know how right off the bat they said, oh, he's not really doing outreach. They're doing outreach to white voters, and he doesn't really care. This is all just a cynical ploy. Well, if it's not going to work, then why are they so worked up about it? So they have to put out this other narrative that, well, this random KKK leader said something about Trump. Right? The whole thing is so ridiculous. I think you pointed out a few weeks back that the U.S. Communist Party supports Hillary. So
yeah, but
what does that
imagine
tell
this.
us?
Think of the double standard. All right, so J. William Fulbright is a known segregationist. Bill Clinton swears, well, that's my mentor. Robert Byrd, the former Klansman, is Hillary's mentor. Let's go back. This wasn't even that back long ago, back in 2012, New Yorker magazine. This is Bill Clinton, actually quoted as saying, Tim Russert told me that, according to sources, Bill Clinton, in an effort to secure the endorsement for Hillary from Ted Kennedy, also said, hey, a few years back, this guy would have been carrying our bags talking about Obama. He has taken his advocacy on behalf of his wife to a level that is pretty troubling. Now, imagine Donald Trump. Imagine the outrage. That would have ended anybody else's career.
All right, well, this is what happens when you have a compliant media. To see what some of our other cable channel friends are saying today, they merely just parrot what Hillary says about Donald Trump, which is so despicable. It's so toxic for the national dialogue. We have really important issues facing the country. Hillary should come out of hiding, come out of her late-night comedy show appearances, and actually debate the issues that matter. I call her Hideaway Hillary now, Sean, because she just will not answer questions. She's not going to do press conferences.
Hillary?
Yeah, hideaway Hillary. She's just going to hide away until the election, try to run out the clock. But, I mean, I think we're going to say this.
If we're going to do guilt by association, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. If we're going to do guilt by association, okay. Hillary has embraced the Black Lives Matter movement. What do we want dead cops? When do we want them now?
Racist movement. That's truly a racist movement.
So we have said she's also embraced the Reverend Al Sharpton. Let's listen to some of the golden oldies of her friend, Reverend Sharpton.
I'm tired of the mac and you ain't nothing. You a punk. Now come on, do something.
We're the best chicken fries in the universe. But we don't go buy some kind of sandwich chicken. Folks was in the cave when we had built empires. We learned to admire them, but they knew to admire us. We built pyramids before Donald Trump ever knew what architecture was. David, yes. You want to be the only on television, the only in the newspaper, the only can talk.
So here's my question. So she's friends with Black Lives Matter. She's friends and seeks the approval of Al Sharpton. Then she takes money from countries like Saudi Arabia that kill gays and lesbians, that discriminate against women, Christians and Jews. I think she's got a bigger problem than Trump. Should Trump use that?
I think you're right, Sean. I get the sense, and just talking to us regular folks who aren't all that into politics, people are really tired of this. I think Walter Williams, Tom Sowell, folks have written wonderful things about this, that racial unity, racial harmony hurts people like Al Sharpton. It kills off the radicals on the left. It hurts Hillary Clinton. It hurts Barack Obama, because what they really care about, not so much about what's happening in the inner city, whether there's violence, what they really want is power. And they want to keep the dependency game going in the inner cities. If people stop being dependent on government, people start thinking for themselves, their game is up.
All right.
And I think they know it.
So I think you hit on something earlier, too, that I agree with, and that is Donald Trump now is reaching out in a major way. He started with his speech in Milwaukee, followed it up with a second speech last week in terms of reaching out to the black community. I think it was the Pew poll, but there was a poll last week that showed he had 14.6% of the black vote. Not high, but higher than the last 8 Republican presidential candidates.
Yeah.
That would be
After the
significant.
pummeling he's gotten. Yeah, I mean, think about, he has the entire Hollywood establishment against him, entire media establishment, a lot of the GOP establishment, the Democrats, the power of the bully pulpit of the White House, Hillary and all of her minions. And when you look at whether Nate Silver's current prognosis on the Electoral College or the percentage of the black vote, he's doing better than Mitt Romney finished. So what does that tell you? This race is over. There's no race here. There's a viable race. He has an uphill battle, no doubt. But I think he continues to talk about real economic opportunity for people who've been taken for granted and gypped by a political party that has taken advantage of them and that uses them election cycle after election cycle.
This is basically,
he continues to do that. He'll do well.
Last question. This is Hillary trying to gin up the base here. This is her trying to get her base to rally around this narrative. You said this is used every 4 years. Is this a way to play the race card that the Democratic Party uses every 4 years?
Well, it's clockwork. I mean, we were just looking at our watches to think, well, when is this going to happen?
Yeah.
Hillary's up against the wall. What is she going to say? I did a great job in Benghazi. I did a great job in the Middle East. You know, well, what is her record? She has no record to run on. So she has to say Republicans racist, Trump's racist, alt-right, all that nonsense that doesn't affect anybody's lives. So this is clockwork, textbook Clinton narrative, and the Democrats' game is so tired. Yeah. I hope people are onto it.
And I hope that people paid attention to what we've been saying here in the stats that we put up, and maybe the media will finally, maybe they'll do a real history of the Democratic Party and racism.
Yeah, be honest.
For the first time. Laura, thank you.
Thanks.
Coming up next tonight on a busy news night here on Hannity.
So what does she do when she can't defend her record? That's right, she lies.
Donald Trump went after Hillary at a rally in New Hampshire earlier today. We've got the highlights and get reaction from the one and only Ann Coulter. She's here, and also tonight.
You can go out. You can beat the pollsters. You can beat the commentators. You can beat Washington.
One of the leaders behind Brexit, Nigel Farage, says that Trump has a good chance of winning in November. That and more tonight on a busy Hannity. Straight ahead.
So what does she do when she can't defend her record? That's right, she lies. He said it. She lies. And she smears. And she paints decent Americans, you, as racists. She bullies voters who only want a better future. I want you to remember these 3 words. Shame on you.
Wow. That was Donald Trump, GOP presidential nominee, earlier today, preemptively responding to these attacks from his Democratic rival, Hillary Clinton. Joining us now, author of 11 New York Times bestsellers. I assume this will be number 12. In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. Ann Coulter. What's up, Miss Coulter? How are you?
You can't even reach me.
I know. I want to get there. Well, I thought that was shame on you, a perfect way to respond.
It is. What more do you want me to say?
What do you make of every 4 years we go through this nonsense, Democrats play the race card?
It's not even every 4 years. It's
every
incessant. 2 years. And particularly in this case, I was going, they had, Breitbart had a book party for in Trump We Trust last night.
Right.
And I was on my way there in an Uber car, and the Uber driver said, do you mind if I listen to the news? And the whole thing is apparently CNN, I found out, with them all talking about Breitbart being this racist organization, and they're all racist, and they're racist. And I said, what are you listening to? And then told him, he was a black cab driver, or the Uber driver, and I said, you are taking me to a party at this right, at this horrible racist, because I'm bursting out laughing at all this, and I invited him to come to the party so we could see all the scary racists there. No, it's because Breitbart put out Clinton Cash, which has been watched by more than 3 million people online. I mean, it's been acknowledged by Washington Post and New York Times as absolutely devastating, because it very clearly lays out the whole pay-for-play Clinton Foundation scam, where they take money, Hillary does a favor as Secretary of State, and then, oh, weirdly, Bill Clinton gets hired to give a speech for $600,000. I mean, it's just so utterly, obviously corrupt, like everything else.
And the media's corrupt. And, you know, you actually outlined in one of your earlier books, and I remember we interviewed you about that. You know, let's play her mentor. This is her mentor, Robert, the former Klansman Byrd. This is him.
There are white I've seen a lot of white in my time. I'm going to use that word. But we just need to work together to make our country a better country.
That's her mentor.
I'd say Donald Trump's attack is much better and much more devastating, and that is the Democrats and Hillary Clinton see African Americans only as voters. They don't care about, the Democrats don't care about your lives or your jobs. Immigration and a border wall is the great unifier. Trump promises to put Americans first, to protect their neighborhoods, but most of all to bring jobs back, to end these job-killing trade deals. He is the first person to ever come along and say, maybe we should care about just emptying out the manufacturing base of America, and to stop dumping low-wage workers on the country. I mean, that is the big issue he has.
We have 95 million Americans out of the labor force right now. 1 in 5 American families don't have one person in their family working. So 11 million illegals, more coming every day, competing for fewer jobs, driving down wages. Who has been disproportionately impacted? What demographic group more than any other?
Right. No,
Black Americans.
And Carol Swain, a wonderful professor at Vanderbilt, has documented this over and over again. It is African Americans who are hurt the most by our current immigration policies, which is why I'm so annoyed by the plutocrats and the rich and the elites who get their cheap nannies and chefs and chauffeurs and strut around like they're Martin Luther King. No, the compassionate policy is to be compassionate toward Americans. And nobody has talked about Americans until Donald Trump came along and didn't need the donors, so he wasn't being bossed around by campaign consultants, though it sounds as if some campaign consultant has slipped into his campaign, and I don't think he should have been hiring, Rubio's speechwriter for his interview with you, giving all these ridiculous talking points for amnesty. And to speak to that, for one thing, the mainstream media, I've criticized Trump before. I'm not some, Clinton cultist or a Cruz cultist. He's my guy, but I give him constructive criticism. And every time I do this, the media makes this huge big deal of, Coulter tiring of Donald Trump. It was a joke when I said this was going to be the shortest book tour ever. It's called a joke. But I do think, because simultaneously with his interview with you, where he said some very dumb things, he's giving these spectacular speeches in Fredericksburg, Virginia, in Tampa, Florida. They're completely the opposite. He's going back to saying, I'm going to put Americans
People
first.
misinterpreted a lot of what we discussed yesterday. What he did was survey the crowd, and then he kept reinforcing enforce the law.
Well,
that's what he said again and again and again.
And he does keep saying he will put Americans first. If he puts Americans first, then all that nonsense someone told him to say about, and they'll pay back taxes. Okay, little pro tip, back taxes for they're not making enough money to pay taxes. Back taxes mean we give each illegal alien approximately $30,000 in earned income tax credit refunds. It means we
got another segment
pay them.
Stay right there.
It is a lie.
I want to ask you, when we get back, about the Republican establishment's outright sabotage of Trump.
Yeah.
And because if Trump doesn't get the 90% of the base that he should get, they're helping elect Hillary. And I say they own Hillary's Supreme Court decisions. They own Hillary's unvetted refugees.
The country's over. We're at the tipping point. This is a serious election, and it's utterly irresponsible and hateful of these people who, as I described in chapter 3 of the book. A bunch of sore loser crybabies pick up your toys and go home.
This is existential for them, for the campaign consultants, for the Washington insiders. Trump has proved they are irrelevant. They don't know what they're doing, so they have to stop them to preserve their jobs. And, you know, as I say,
take a break. We'll come back. More with Ann Coulter. Her book, In Trust We Trump. E pluribus, awesome. That's what I said. In Trump we trust. That's right. Take a break. We'll come back. Also coming up tonight.
And remember, anything is possible if enough decent people are prepared to stand up against the establishment.
One of the leaders behind the Brexit vote rallied Trump supporters last night and said Trump does have a good chance of winning in November. We'll have more with Ann Coulter, and also later tonight.
I know there's a lot of smoke and there's no fire.
Hillary and Bill Clinton in huge damage control mode after the damning AP report about their foundation and people that were donors buying access. Matter of fact, more than half. Peter Schweitzer, Monica Crowley, Doug Schoen will weigh in, and more as we continue.
There are millions of ordinary Americans who've been let down, who've had a bad time, who feel the political class in Washington are detached from them. You have a fantastic opportunity here with this campaign. You can go out. You can beat the pollsters. You can beat the commentators. You can beat Washington. And remember, anything is possible if enough decent people are prepared to stand up against the establishment.
Nigel Farage, one of the leaders who helped push the June Brexit vote at Donald Trump's rally last night. Trump has said that we'll be calling him Mr. Brexit after November. Is he right? Still with us. Author of In Trump We Trust. E pluribus, awesome. Ann Coulter. All right, so right now, if you look at the number of Republicans, percentage of Republicans that polling-wise are voting for Trump, it's about 75%. He needs 90%. He gets 90%. It's 14, 15% of the black vote, you know, and a higher percentage of the Hispanic vote. He'll be president. But you have all these former candidates for the presidency that made pledges. Then you've got Paul Ryan, and then you've got a bunch of wonks over at the Wall Street Journal, National Review, that I think you're right. They want the cheap labor for their you know, big corporate buddies, are doing everything they can do to sabotage him. They're not thinking about the Supreme Court. They're not thinking about vetting refugees, immigration. They're not thinking about getting rid of Obamacare or energy independence. It's utterly
selfish. And as I was saying, I mean, their motto is, I only regret that I have but one country to give for my TV gig. They don't care about the country. I kind of thought it might be over when Romney lost. He had the best position on immigration of any president until the dawn of Trump. But I thought there was a 10% chance we could save the country. I wrote Adios America, and God bless Donald Trump. He read it. Now we are at the tipping point. It's much farther along. I mean, Democrats must be thinking, we thought it was going to take 20 years to completely take over the country. The way Obama is flying in Central Americans and bringing in Muslim refugees, we can get this done, you know, in Hillary's first term. Both Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine say that they will amnesty the roughly 30 to 50, 60 million illegal aliens. Presidential elections are decided by a few million votes. If she does that, if she quadruples, more than quadruples the number of Muslim refugees, it's over. Republicans never win another presidential election. We have 9 Ruth Bader Ginsburgs on the Supreme Court. We are done with the essay portion of this election. It is down to the multiple choice. It is Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And if it's Hillary Clinton, what you do, what I do, what Fox News does will be irrelevant because there won't be a fight anymore. There absolutely won't be a fight. It's utterly selfish. And I think in the end, I mean, I still believe, as I think I was saying on radio, I'm not going to be a nut and say I don't believe the polls, but I do think the polls are going to change. I still think Donald Trump is more likely to win than not. I think people will get serious and realize this is it. This is it for the country.
But I think it's worse than that. If Hillary wins, I am blaming them directly for their sabotage. They own her
yeah.
Supreme Court choices. They own whatever the refugees do to Americans. They own the fact that Americans won't get back to work.
No, I don't know what their vision is, apart from my point that it's completely over. Republicans can have no fighting chance anymore. The whole country is California. Let's just say that weren't true. Let's say it were 20 years ago. Do they think that, you know, the people who voted for Trump are going to come back to the never-Trumpers as our conquering heroes? No, they will have destroyed any chance the Republicans have. That won't really matter anyway. But, you know, as for this idea that even if Trump believed, and look, I think he made a mistake in the things he said to you. He was using the catchphrases. Oh, and I have a glossary in here for all the euphemisms for supporting amnesty. Claiming they'll pay back taxes is one of them. No citizenship is another one. These are all the Marco Rubio cliches used to push the Gang of Eight bill. And even, look, I don't think that's true. I think it's stupid because all Trump is doing is demoralizing his base. The people who hate him still hate him, but now they can call him a flip-flopper. Way to go, whoever told Trump to say that. But the whole, I mean, not only through this campaign where he's been consistent over and over again of putting Americans first, the one thing, he isn't a politician, he does get some things wrong. The one thing that has been totally consistent in his life that I describe in this book is that he has always been super patriotic, has always put Americans first, has always cared about working class Americans. And if you were putting Americans first, you are not going to want to keep even the most law-abiding illegal alien, because as I point out again in this book, one illegal alien, the most wonderful law-abiding, been here 15, 20 years, with one child in school. That's an average of $12,000 a year. The only taxes they pay are sales taxes. The highest sales tax in the country is about 9%. An illegal alien would have to spend more than $100,000 a year in taxable, or not sell, buy more than $100,000 a year in taxable goods just to break even on the cost of educating a child. And that's assuming no food stamps, no free school lunches, no English as a second language classes. This is burdening America. We're a generous people, but it's enough already.
Then why are so many Republicans sabotaging him, Ann? Because it's, look, I spell it out. Why?
It's a couple of things. One is people are always bitter at the people who beat them. As I pointed out, as people dropped out.
And the same people that forced John McCain and Bob Dole down your throat.
No, I know. And I, you know, reluctantly supported Mr. Amnesty John McCain with my, I think, very helpful website, getdrunkandvoteformccain.com. But I came around. I supported Palin. I supported, you know, the senators and the congressmen.
Get drunk and vote for John McCain.com.
Let's say you can't support Trump. How about we'll take care of the turkey, you do the side dishes and the dessert. You take care of the Senate races and the congressional races. No, they want to viciously, hysterically attack Trump, and part of it is just sour grapes. This is the guy who whopped them. But also, the rewards in the media are there for anyone who wants to attack Trump. I mean, people I have never heard of, never seen on TV before, and do not exactly have, you know, square-jawed good looks like, you know, Rick Wilson, that let's get this guy on TV. Suddenly, they had to fire Melissa Harris Perry to get Rick Wilson his own cot and his own spot every single show on MSNBC. I mean, suddenly you are being quoted all over. You become a star in today's media culture because all of the elites want to stop Trump. This is up to the people, and it's up to Trump.
All right. Ann Coulter, book, AnnCoulter.com for your book signings and book tour.
Yes, book signing this Sunday in New York.
Well, you didn't even invite me. Thanks a lot.
You're invited.
Finally. All right, I have to beg for my invitation. Coming up next tonight here on Hannity.
We're trying to do good things. If there's something wrong with creating jobs and saving lives, I don't know what it is.
Clinton's desperately trying to defend their foundation amid disturbing new allegations of corruption. Is the race card being played to distract you? We'll check in with Peter Schweitzer, Monica Crowley, Doug Schoen. Plus, the New York Post has put out a damning new report linking Clinton's top aide, Uma Abedin, to a radical Muslim magazine. That and her mother. Why is she so close to Hillary? We'll explain.
We're trying to do good things. If there's something wrong with creating jobs and saving lives, I don't know what it is. And the people who gave the money knew exactly what they were doing. And I have nothing to say about it. I'm really proud. I'm proud of what they've done.
All right, Bill Clinton yesterday trying to defend the Clinton Foundation after the AP released their damning report about pay-to-play and a possible scheme. Hillary Clinton also dismissed the report. Listen to this.
My work as Secretary of State was not influenced by any outside forces. I made policy decisions based on what I thought was right. I know there's a lot of smoke and there's no fire.
Oh, really? Here with reaction, author of Clinton Cash, the New York Times bestseller and movie, Peter Schweitzer, Fox News contributor Monica Crowley, former Clinton pollster Doug Schoen. So, all right, so here's what she's saying, Doug, that it's okay if I take money from Saudi Arabia and all these other countries that practice Sharia and discriminate against women, kill gays and lesbians, and discriminate against Christians and Jews. It's perfectly fine that over half of the people that I gave access to at the State Department are donors, and then some went on to benefit because of my actions.
Well, that's the part that hasn't been shown yet.
Oh, it actually has been.
Well, when it gets shown, then the Secretary of State has a political problem.
Peter Schweitzer?
And she deflected today very successfully.
You mean by using the race card?
Absolutely.
So she used the race card.
Sean, it's pretty obvious she made race front and center. She used Trump's ties.
Was it the race card?
Sean, she made the issue of race in politics central.
All right, Peter
call
Schweitzer,
it what you like.
This is your wheelhouse. You own this. You are way ahead of the curve. So this was the worst week for her in terms of all the things you've been telling us coming true. So now we have a situation where Hillary Clinton clearly gave access, pay to play, maybe some would use the word bribery, and got caught. Now, do you think this was directly connected to her use of this Klan ad that she put out today?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. I mean, it's a classic tactic of the Clintons. If you don't like the conversation, you try to change the conversation. The problem is this issue's not going away. There are more emails coming out. I've seen them. They show the same thing. And with all due respect to Doug, I mean, access is the key here. This is a way, the Clinton Foundation was a way for foreign nationals to influence and get access to the Secretary of State. They can't give to her super PAC. They can't give to the campaign, so the Clinton Foundation became the conduit. And that's the reason you have a crown prince or you have a corrupt Nigerian businessman asking the Clinton Foundation to set up meetings in the State Department.
How big does this get?
These donations,
how big will this get? She now is trying to distract and successfully distracted the country today with a Klan ad. Okay, what's she going to do tomorrow? What's she going to do for the next 75 days?
Yeah, I think she's going to have a hard time diverting it. She's going to try. But look, when you've got the Associated Press and the mainstream media are picking up these stories, are releasing these emails, it's hard to change the conversation. And I just think people are not going to buy it. People know why she's doing this. They know the motivation. And this goes to the central question of how you are going to conduct yourself as president.
Monica,
and shutting down the Clinton Foundation now is too late.
Monica?
Look, the Clinton Foundation has always been an epic hustle. This has essentially been a money laundering operation to enrich the Clintons and also to develop a massive war chest for her 2016 presidential run. In 2013, the Clinton Foundation, the paperwork was exposed, and what we found was that the foundation took in over $140 million, Sean, and only spent about $9 million on direct aid. The rest of it went to administrative and travel costs, salaries, and bonuses, particularly for Clinton family and friends. The Charity Navigator website, which is a prestigious charity watchdog, took a look at this. They put the Clinton Foundation on their watch list because it was so problematic that they sacked it along with Al Sharpton's National Action Network. The Clinton Foundation has never been audited, either by the IRS or by an independent accounting authority, so nobody actually knows what's in there. This is textbook corruption, and every time the Clintons are presented with the evidence from Peter Schweitzer or from the Associated Press, they constantly deflect by saying, well, there's no direct evidence. Sean, most criminal cases are decided on circumstantial evidence. And as Peter Schweitzer's work has shown, the AP's work has shown, there are mountains of circumstantial evidence.
We got to take a break here.
Why did Donald Trump give $100,000? And Kellyanne said it was good work.
We got to take a break. We'll come back more with our panel right after this. And also, the New York Post to put out a damning new report that links Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin, to an extremely radical Muslim journal, including Uma's mother, and waiting to hear what Hillary said in Saudi Arabia about their treatment of women and how wrong she is. Straight ahead. Welcome back. Back to Hannity. A shocking report from the New York Post is alleging that longtime Hillary Clinton aide Huma Abedin spent 10 years as an editor for the Journal of Muslim Minority Affairs, which the Post describes as, quote, a radical Muslim publication that is opposed to women's rights and blamed the U.S. for 9/11. Now, a Clinton campaign spokesperson is pushing back against the report, telling the Post that, quote, her name was simply listed on the masthead in that period and that she did not play a role in editing that publication. Back with us, Peter Schweitzer, Monica Crowley, Doug Schoen. Wait a minute, but it was her mother and her brother and her sister, Peter, that were a part of this group. The mother wrote this, 31-page screed about how women are not mistreated in Saudi Arabia, and Hillary and the mother appeared together in Saudi Arabia, and Hillary said, oh, we've got to debunk the myth that women are treated poorly in Saudi Arabia, where they can't drive, can't leave the country on their own, and are told how to dress and whether they can go to school or work. Why isn't that a bigger scandal?
This is a huge problem, Sean. I mean, you can't just walk away and say, well, my name was on the masthead, but I had no connection to it, especially when this was basically a family enterprise. Look, Huma Abedin is at the central core of the Clinton apparatus. When she was Hillary's right hand at the State Department, she was also on the payroll of the Clinton Foundation. She was also put on the payroll of Teneo,
she had
the
three separate jobs,
firm.
3 separate checks coming.
Now, that's where, to me, the problem is. You go at the issues of obvious conflict of interest rather than guilt by association, because that's the problematic.
Her name was on a radical
Sean,
Islamic
it's disgusting.
publication.
How much more clear can I be?
Is it disgusting that Hillary took money from the Saudis that abuse women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews?
Sean, is
that disgusting?
Can I finish?
Is that disgusting?
No, because we need the Saudis to be a bulwark against Iran in the Middle East.
Taking their blood money, Monica Crowley.
It's not blood money.
It's blood money. It's abuse. You kill gays and lesbians. That's not blood money.
Sean,
you
their policies
Christians and Jews.
are abhorrent.
That's not blood money.
They are keeping the world balanced because we have no Middle East policy.
Monica, I wouldn't take a penny.
There are 2 really big points about Huma Abedin and this Institute for Muslim Minority Affairs and the journal she was on the masthead of. One, Muslim Minority Affairs does not refer to getting social welfare programs for Muslims who happen to be minorities. No, what it's about is preparing Muslim minorities to be the Muslim majority in places like the West and the United States. Number 2, and this is really important because you referred to her family, her parents, along with a major al-Qaeda financier named Omar Nassif, began this institute as a Saudi regime initiative, Sean. This was funded by the Saudi regime in order to spread Islam and Sharia across the West, including in the United States. This is Huma Abedin's life's work. This is what her parents do. They are essentially tools of the Saudi regime in order to make this transition globally. So this is not some innocent journal that she was working for.
Weigh in on that.
She runs around saying I didn't have anything to do with it. This is her life's work, Sean.
Peter?
Well, I think Monica makes a great point. And look, to the larger issue, the Saudis have given $25 million to the Clinton Foundation. They and others in the Middle East have paid very lucrative speeches for Bill Clinton. The question everybody has to ask is, are they not expecting something in return? Are they not expecting access? Are they not expecting favorable treatment? Of course they are. This is how money in politics works.
Well, let me stay right there,
recognizes
Peter. Hold that thought. They are expecting something for that money, aren't they?
I hope they get a stronger U.S.-Saudi alliance against
but when the Crown Prince of Bahrain calls the Clinton Foundation and says, I need to see Hillary, and then the Clinton Foundation gets in touch with the Secretary of State, and he gets his meeting in 48 hours, that's buying influence, isn't it?
And I want to know,
that's pay to
what
play.
Did they get for that money?
Well, we know one guy got the forestry rights in Colombia.
You know,
look, I mean,
look, the Clintons are ahead because it's all become a mishmash. Smoke and no fire, as Hillary said.
Sean, can I just jump in real quick? Because Peter's done the great work on the access, and that's the problem. I think the big story here is through Huma Abedin that the access was granted to some of the world's greatest villains, Sean, including sub-Saharan dictators and the Saudi regime and others.
Exactly. That, I think, by the time this election is said and done, America will know all about it. Doug, good to see you. Monica.
Thank you.
Peter, thank you. Coming up, A very important question of the day. We need your help. That's next. All right, time for a question of the day. Do you think the Clinton Foundation should be shut down? And do you also think that this is a distraction, Hillary's comments today, to cover up, of course, the pay-to-play? Go to Facebook.com/Sean Hannity, at Sean Hannity on Twitter. Let us know what you think. That is all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.